Yo, yo, yo. Hey, how's it going? I'm Sephiros, and in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you my process that I've been rinsing lately for writing bass drops. Basically, to summarize the process, it's based off recording long recordings of generative patches, both bass patches and effects patches, and I'll show you how I did that in a sec. But we're not going to focus on that. Mainly, we're going to be focusing on then using those long recordings in a very efficient way to create phrasing that we can multiply outward in a way that will save us a lot of time and allow us to express a lot of different ideas and try things out. And you'll be learning a lot about the Ableton sampler, because that's going to be the main thing I'm going to be using, as well as the granulator too. And I've prepared the thing that I played in the beginning of the video, so we're going to dive into that because I already got a start on this so that I can right off the bat kind of explain stuff. So let's dive right into Ableton Live. Okay, so I have my pre-master, and inside that's the drums and the sidechained. The sidechained has my ducking device, which is the MIDI triggered Shaper Box 2 volume shaper. In here we've got bass, and we've got upper tonal and effects. Let's start with the drums. See, that's not a drum, so I'm going to put that in the effects. All right, so the drums are sounding like this. The kick is some of my chains from my chains sample pack layered on top of a kick 2. Pretty short, punchy kick with an amp like that. The snare is a combo of a few different claps and things. Got the secondary drum kit here. This has a little bit of side chain to the kick and snare. And it just has these kind of percussive, glitchy things in it. This little hat roll or snare roll at the end. It's with a Richard Devine snare. All right, so let's get into the bass. That's in this sidechain group, and that's the main thing going on. So here's the original patch. I'll solo this, and I have to select this all and turn it back on. All right, so this is what the original patch kind of sounds like as of right now. Now, this patch was morphing along, and I was morphing it as I was recording it, and that's where this audio right here came from. So I can go into this audio clip, and you can see it's a long recording of bass. So this bass is, if I hover over here, it'll tell me 9 minutes. So I took that and I chucked it in a sampler. And that sounds like this. So I just chose a start point that I liked in conjunction with this simple drum kit that I have going. And then I duplicated it and created this variation. Then I went back to the first one and repeated again. And I do something different. And then it comes back to that repeating again. But it's changed because I added in this effects layer, these two glitches. how did I get those? Well, those are, I believe, this recording. And this is a long recording of glitches that I made very easily. By just throwing this rack on the master. And this rack has in it, if I solo this master, Fracture XT, and this has a randomization button, so I literally just put the dry wet fully wet and then just play the track like this. So you can see that lots of glitches just generated. So it's a generative modular kind of glitch plugin. And I'm just sending it into a disperser, a gatekeeper, a clipper, another disperser, and then 4 of these OTTs that are kind of on a relaxed setting. So if I close some of this, you should be able to see that OTT setting. The bottom band's turned off and the time's turned up and the amount's turned down. But then I duplicated it several times, so it's still pronounced OTT, and that just really brings out the glitchiness of the artifacts. So yeah, I'm using that here on the repetition of this A bass. And the way I got it to sit with that is just simply automate the filter to turn on, and then automate the frequency of it to wobble kind of along with those glitches. So what I'm going to do here is duplicate these last basses, these two. So I'll just duplicate that, and this is going to be the process over and over again. Just duplicate it, delete the old MIDI, stagger it like a checkerboard, and then I can go in here and choose a different piece. Right, pretty fun. These repeat a lot of times, so what if we duplicated these two? Get a little bit more checkerboarding going on. And you see I can do this with no CPU problem really, because all they have are it's like a simple chain after it. It's just because I put all the effects into the bass. I guess I can dive into that bass patch real quick. The original one, we've got a phase plant. I'll turn that on. So the phase plant sounds like this. I'm not going to really go into this much, but it's basically AM, PM, FM, and then a speed that's controlling the wobbling of those 3 ways of getting upper harmonics out of the lower harmonics, and then a normal knob that controls the overall, so I can do more or less of that, and then a delay right after it that's kind of messing with it at a high rate. And then you got a couple simple LFOs just doing a pitch bend for the 808 part of the bass, and then you can see that has a long tail on it, and there's a couple oscillators that are doing FM and stuff, and noise, and here's the sub here. So you can see the top is filtered out. But you can hear this delay does a lot once it's getting distorted. So let's go to that part. So I just have a utility to turn it up. into a saturator, into Rift, and here's Rift. So I kind of just programmed Rift to be semi-generative in the way that it's womping around and distorting. And then I put this into the convolver in a parallel rack. So I have a dry and a wet, and the dry has actually Volcano on it. And then this is the convolver part right here. And I was just changing this convolver to get different timbres. Yeah, so after that, it's a Saturn. Notice the feedback. So that's actually reining it back a bit and giving it a little feedback. And then we go into the M Wave Shaper multiband. So that's giving an OTT-like multiband saturation, so not affecting the time. Then we have the Trash 2, which I was messing with a lot to get different tones. Yeah, so the Trash really brings a lot of crunchiness and like amping out of it. We got the Decapitator after that. And then the Volcano. So I basically was just recording that while changing different parameters and recording the output. Not worrying too much about quality or anything like that. Just making sure that the sub is fat. In other words, I got this bass mono on there too because there was reverb being used to get some tones. So yeah, now we have like this A-B-A-C pattern here. think I want to do a little more of this because I like these sounds. So again, I'll go into this and just automate this filter and then automate the frequency, kind of mirroring the last time I did it. But I'm going to pick a different glitch. So I like how that kind of works. So you can see I labeled this group A section. So now I'm just going to duplicate the entire group. And then we'll duplicate time with a shift command or a shift control D command on a Mac. And now, you know, we have these two groups. I'll make this a different color. And we can call this B section. And I'll just delete the MIDI. And now let's just work on this little B section here, and we could find some new chops. Now that the MIDI's already in place, I'm just gonna start by changing the start points and see if that's enough. So similarly, I'm going to duplicate these glitches. So I'm going to first group them up and call them A section glitches. A sect glitch, and then I'll just duplicate that whole group. This is the wonderful thing about groups. Close it up, and then we can get some new glitch chops. Let's see what else we can find in here. I almost want more of it. right, so the next thing I'll do here to rise up the tension and raise the energy is maybe some hats. Nice. So to get those hats to come out a bit more, I'm going to just throw a Soothe on the bass group, which there should be one on there anyways, because we're dealing with a lot of distortion here. So let's get a little Soothe out, maybe even duplicate it. And on this this second one, the first one we'll just leave like stock, and then for now, and then the second one, you can see there's a sidechain input, and we can go from the hats. So that would be the secondary drums, right? And now it's going to sidechain. So we can go here to the stereo link. I'm going to turn that off, and then we're going to go to sidechain and turn it on with a little power button. And now we should be able to sidechain the bass out of the way of those hats a little bit. Another thing with Soothe is I find it really can help with the low mids. Alright, so that's a whole drop. The next thing we can do is add some variation to the drum pattern, and the way I'll do that is by resampling it. So I'm going to go drums, and I'm just going to resample this. Alright, so we got some drums. Now I'm going to just drag this out over here so we can play with it. I'm just Command X and then Shift Command Paste so it makes space for it. Alright, great. So let's get echo out. We'll use some stock effects here. Let's also get out the grain delay and the spectral resonator. And a spectral time. And a spectral blur. And I'll show you a few ways to use the LFO tool. So I'm going to get a couple of those out. This is the Ableton LFO. We can do a little generative sound design to get some glitches for the drums. So I'm just going to start LFOing stuff, like the dry wet. So I'm basically just randomizing everything. Randomize a bunch of stuff. I'll just start randomizing more stuff. Alright, so I'm going to record this now. Recording. beat repeat. All right, that's about enough of that. I like to have a good long sample. Sorry about that. But I hope you learned something about LFOing. You can really get some out there sounds just with stock Ableton. You'll notice that this whole process revolves around resampling. So let's just see if we can find a space for this. And the easiest way to do this, I want to put this in the right group. So I'm going to put this in the effects group because that's really what that is, even though they sound kind of drummy, and I'm especially interested in the parts that are drummy. I'm going to call it drum glitch. Let's see. I wonder if we could put one here. So the first thing, you know, I'm going to right click, change it to a sampler. And this is pretty standard what I do. I turn this output down to like -2-ish, turn the filter off for now. I'll put a saturator right away and turn it up into the saturator. So let's see if we can lead into that little roll nicely. Maybe even overlap it. This could be another cool spot for it, you know, connecting this kick with the snare. So I'm going to duplicate and then do the checkerboard. Remember to delete the old one. Let's see what we can find here. Maybe we could use it again. Nah, we have so many chops we might as well use them. So again, checkerboard it out, find a different chop. And this is very subtle stuff, like that's a very subtle sound. but it really adds that sci-fi. Could be one there. So I'll just move one there. I'm gonna cut every bass there. And then we'll have a little glitch under that too. So let's see. Drum glitch would fit right there. I'm gonna change this chop because it's a bit too harsh. And so check it, we can kind of put transients on these by using a little volume duck. So I could like fade it in like this and then put one of those glitches. See how that works? And I just duplicate that so that I can use a new slice. So these are kind of playing around with the bass a little bit. So I'm going to duplicate this and then change the third one, because that's really our rhyme scheme right now, is the same, different, the same, and then a different thing. So I'm going to repeat that again. I like to do something different with this. Alright, so then the question is, like, what do we go into after that, right? Let's listen to it and just resample it. Looks like our basses are really quiet compared to the drums. So hopefully I haven't been clipping OBS. Let me check. All right, we're good, but we can clearly turn the basses up a bunch. So I'm just gonna clip it at the top where the whole bass group comes together. All right, so now I'm gonna just turn that snare up. And then also turn up the hats. All right, now let's record the drop again. Whoa. Alright, yeah, that's nasty. last one's really loud though. Hold on. All right, that's about what I was going for. All right, so typically I would just duplicate this whole thing. Shift Command duplicate, Shift Control duplicate. Now we have a second drop, but let's see how this transitions. So I want to keep that sound. And that sound is a combination of, I'm going to have it just repeat. And it's a combination of this and this glitch sound here. So I'll just have that keep going. Then I'll keep the drums going. Let's see how it feels with the drums going. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to take this MIDI and just move it over and make a response bass. And then with this riser here, I'm gonna just do a high pass to get it kind of out of the way. And I'll low pass it too, and then just bring it in because it's a low pass. And this is the other thing that's going, so we can do a high pass on this as well and automate that. So then we have drop 2. All right, so for drop 2, we'll take this and I'm going to group it and call it drop 1 bass. Kind of unnecessary, but I'm just a file person. Okay, so to duplicate the entire group of all the basses, and it's going to take a little while. Okay. Yeah, all right, so this is what we want. So I will delete the old and keep the new. which is this. And now I'm just gonna see if I can get away with just changing these start points. Let's see what else we can find. Maybe use the pitch envelope here. Let's use the pitch envelope. I love the pitch envelope in the sampler. I like to go 48 and then do some of these crazy pitches. This is really fun. If I'm doing these pitch bends, I find a low shelf to be really useful on the bass, because that low sub can sometimes become too much. Ooh, I liked that one. And then let's do a wobble. So I like to do these. I like to find some cool movement like that. And then if I do a loop, we can move this loop over here and then I can zoom in. We already are repeating notes, so I'll go in here and just change that to a full note. And then we can loop up a section of this. Let's do another loop-de-loop-de. I love doing those. So again, we'll just get the loop and we zoom in on something cool. Maybe another loop-de here. It can be fun to then get the LFO, and here with the envelope, there's a loop mode, so you could put it on loop. Yeah, can kind of automate the filter to open. So this is a good way to get those loops to sound a little more natural. Oh, see, are these duplicated? These shouldn't be duplicated. Let's mute these. Let me check the old drop one. Let's see if I doubled up there too. No, that looks fine. Okay, I don't know how that happened, but... So there's a little room in this chop for some of those glitchy boys. So let's get some of those little glitches. Put one here. Shift Control M. C3 is the original pitch of the sample. I'll duplicate that. We'll checkerboard it out. Z to zoom in. So this could be cool to hit reverse here on the sampler and see what these sound like in reverse. And then another one. Right here. But this one I'll do somewhere else. Another one on the last snare there. Let's see what happens when we drop back into this section. Yeah, that's wild. And then let's kind of cut this prematurely here. All right, I'm gonna sample the whole track now, and that is a wrap. Sequencing with sampler, the quickest way to write a beat. All right, cool. Made a whole track on stream. First time ever making a whole track on stream in, how long did it take? Let's see. I should have recorded this. An hour to write a whole track. How long is this? 3 minutes. That's a whole track in an hour. Of course, I spent maybe half an hour to 45 minutes making the sounds ahead of time, so maybe in all, call it 2 hours for a whole track. So not bad. It's not finished. It's there's some really harsh spots in there that I still would like to tame a bit, but it's sounding cool and I really like it. And I think it would work on the dance floor, which is usually the main criteria I like to think about when I'm writing music. Not so much about releases. I'm usually, at least with this style, I'm thinking about, you know, doing some cool stuff live with this track. But yeah, the whole basic rhyme scheme, you know, in this track is just PVRD or ABAC, you know, it works. It's not the most complex or fancy scheme. It doesn't have a lot of curveballs in it yet, you know, it's a basic, predictable, but I think the predictability of the rhyme scheme really kind of allows you to get away with more diversity in terms of how many different sounds or how many different chops you want to use. Like, it looks like so much more work than it was to just duplicate these out. And really, I highly recommend you try this. You can do this with patches too. I just did it with Sampler because it's the most efficient for me. And I really like the workflow of samplers. But you know, I've made tracks like this where I'll use a granulator instead of sampler and just keep duplicating that. And that is like next level. That's like even crazier than this. But, you know, this I like because it's very minimal on the automation. It's really just a little bit of MIDI here, a little bit of MIDI there. It's not even dealing with melodies. I'm just dealing with, you know, sequencing. Having that repetition and then contrasting that with two different ones, it's really all that I find you need to do a lot of times. So that's the basic lesson. That's the basic stream. I'm much appreciated. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'm Sephiros. Love you. Big up.